Guys, so I've just woken up, as you can see. Do you like this dressing gown today? It's jazzy, that one, isn't it? You play better with this dressing gown. I'm just about to start playing. I thought I'd record these ideas because I've had a few thoughts about what I want to do this morning. I don't have much time. I've probably only got like 15-20 minutes, and then I need to get myself ready to go. So what I've been thinking about are some of the ways that classical composers spice up a 2-5-1, i.e., chord replacements or chord substitutions for the 2 or the 5. That because I was originally classically trained, and some of these things I'm sure have use. Well, everything has use, of course, if you're creative enough. But I thought I'd just have a little look today and see if they do, see if these are still good ideas. So there's what have I got? 3 in particular that I want to have a go at today. I'm going to just quickly go through the sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Stereotypical, cliche jazz ones as well. As you know, I'm trying to do more outside playing. So the first idea, and of course, like I say, you take these and do what you want with them, because these are just more scales. And I think I said, if you watch my last video where I was deliberately trying to play outside, I was trying to avoid using formulas like this. I was trying to just play chromatically and let my ear guide the playing. I find the problem can be if you're too formulaic and think on this 5 chord I'm going to play this scale, then it can sound a bit scalular and a bit, again, formulaic, a bit cliche. But they can be useful because, of course, they can open your ears if you get used to the sound of one and it's got some weird notes in it. It can open your ears to those sounds. Anyway, I'll shut up and let's dive into it. So, what key am I going to do these in? Let's do them in the key of C. Why not? Okay, so in the key of C, we should have a D minor 7, G7, C major of some sort. First thing to say is that your 2 and your 5 are 1 chord. Now, of course, they are 2 chords, but they can be thought of as 1 chord. To very quickly summarize that, if I just take the D minor chord here, and if I can put G at the bottom of that, a very out of tune G. There. We get a G11 sound. We've got the 9 and the 11 there, as well as the 5 and the 7. So although we hear it as a chord progression, it's actually 2 bars of the dominant. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. So rather than think of this as D minor 7, G7, C, we're going to think of it as G7, G7, C. Therefore, the great advantage of changing your way of thinking here is that, first of all, if you do come up with a formula, you've got more time to play it because you don't have to just wait till the actual G7. You can start your outside ideas on the D minor chord as well. And the other advantage is that, of course, when you are playing over that D minor 7, you would probably stick to something a bit more, well, maybe the Dorian mode, you know, something a bit more standard. And in this instance, it's going to force you to maybe play some more exciting ideas. You can still treat it that way if you like, but of course you can add this stuff over the top as well. So the first idea, both of these classical ideas I'm wanting to have a go at, and I've not tried these yet today, so these might sound absolutely awful. The first one's what we call an augmented 6th chord. Now, an augmented 6th chord, in terms of its shape on the guitar, it looks exactly the same as a dominant chord. It's just the same, you know, you'd play it using that chord shape there, or the jazzier version, that one there. And you build this on the flattened 6 of the key. So in the key of C, the 6 is A, so I'm going to build it on A flat. So it's basically what we would probably want to call an A flat 7 chord. You see this in a minor blues quite a lot. At the end you get a boom, boom, boom. However, in a classical context, this is not an A flat 7, it's an A flat augmented 6. Well, you might ask what the difference of that is. The difference is that that top note is not a G flat in this case. It's an F sharp. All the other notes of your scale, which is C major, are going to remain untouched. So the scale I'm going to end up with here is going to be A flat, B, C, D, E flat, F sharp, G natural, A flat. Now this gives us, if we play this in its 7th mode, which would be G, some of you may know this as the Arabian scale or the Arabic scale, and if you know the harmonic minor, it's the last 4 notes of the harmonic minor built on G. Then you play those same notes built on D. So when we play this over a 2-5-1, so let's try backing track in C major. Here we go. We'll get an advert here first, probably. YouTube's asking me which airlines I've flown with before. I won't be answering that. Ah, there's Questlove doing his thing. Quist Jam, not Questlove. Okay, so hopefully you can hear that. So what we've got here, of course, is D minor 7, G7, C. I'll say those as I go. D minor 7, G7, C. So what I'm going to be trying instead is, rather than just playing my C major ideas, which could still be better, I'm not trying to pretend I've finished C major, but I'm going to play that scale for the 2. I'm going to go, going to keep it going for the 5, and hopefully try and resolve, which might be tricky. So here we go. It's going to be the Arabic scale starting on the 2. So here comes the 1, a 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's start there. Hello, viewer. Single viewer. Hello, thanks for watching. So if you missed the beginning, what I'm doing here is replacing the 2-5 of a 2-5-1 with some classical stuff. And that example there was what would happen if you got if you replaced the 2 and the 5 with an augmented 6 chord. And you get the Arabic scale. Okay, so that's a sound I'm not particularly used to. My ears aren't very used to that. Yours possibly aren't either. So that's a sound that I'm going to experiment with. Like I say, I'm just trying to take note of these ideas so that when I come back to do some proper practice later, when I've got a bit of time, I can experiment with these and open my ears up to them. Okay, now the second one I'm going to try is another 6th chord, and this is called a Neapolitan 6. Now, I don't actually know why this is called a 6th chord, because there's nothing 6 about it. I suppose it's got a flattened 6th of the key of C in it. That might be why it's called Neapolitan 6. I should have done my research. Anyway, what this is, it's a flattened supertonic in its first inversion. What that means in layman's terms is you take the note number 2 of the scale, which is D, we're in the key of C here, you flatten it, you play a major chord on it, it's got D flat, and then harmony-wise you'd play it in its first inversion. Of course, as a scale it doesn't matter which inversion you're in. So you've got an A flat chord in its first inversion, so F, D flat and A flat is the voicing I'm playing here. And this resolves really nicely. Okay, so I'm going to try that idea now. So scale-wise, what's that going to be? Well, let's go through our key. The only notes we need to change are D is going to become D flat, and A is going to become A flat. There. So we're going to get C, D flat, E, F, G, A flat, B, C, B, A flat, G, F, E, D flat, C. Okay, so what is that scale? You guessed it, it's the Arabic scale again. But now we're in the key of, let me get my brain in gear. So we're thinking of this as, well, it depends on where you think of the key center, but I'm going to think of this as a C Arabic scale. Now, no, I'll tell you what, I'm gonna stay in. Oh, yeah, that's some nice stuff there. Okay, so let's see how this one sounds. Let me talk you through the notes of that scale. So we've got C, D flat, because that's in the chord, C, D flat, E, because there's the E just stays as it is, F natural, G, A flat, B, C. Another way you might want to think about this is in the key of F. You might like to think of it in the key of F. So you've got C, D flat, E, F, which is like the last four notes of the harmonic minor. G, A flat, B, C, which are the last four notes of the C harmonic minor. Let's try it. So that's the one. Okay, here we go, 2, 3, 4, 1. Tricky one, this. I'm not used to this shape. No, that wasn't it. Either. I keep going into an altered mode. That was it. Weird sound, but it sounds quite cool. Ah. The D flat, of course, is also the tritone substitution of the G7. So it works on several levels, this one, if you can get it to work. Which I can't yet. I'm still playing major on the C major, by the way. I just tried some triad ideas. Listen to this. That was really nice, just a D flat triad. Try that again. I'm just using it on the 2 now, I'm just substituting the 2. Thanks, Luke B. Luke B, we're just using the get my brain in gear, first thing in the morning here. Neapolitan 6th. Okay, let me pause there. Okay, so that's 2 ideas, and I really need to work on those. Again, those aren't familiar sounds to my ears, so possibly they're not familiar sounds to your ears either. Now, when I say they're not familiar sounds, we have been hearing these for hundreds of years, of course, in classical music and in jazz stuff as well. So they're in there somewhere, but we just need to unlock these notes by exploring them. I kept on saying, no, that's not it either. Now, of course, I know the notes that I'm wanting to play, but I'm at the point where I kind of let my fingers do what they want, and it's actually quite difficult when you restrict yourself to a scale to stick to it. I'm hearing ideas and I want to play them. It's actually, of course, that's all the more reason to restrict yourself. The idea here, yeah, try it out, Luke B. It's these are some cool ideas. You've got your Neapolitan 6th and your Augmented 6th. Well, okay, let's go to some more standard jazz stuff now. Of course, it goes without saying that your classical stuff and jazz stuff, they are the same. You know, I'm saying that this is classical theory. Of course, it's just traditional classical music theory that we use even up to this day in jazz stuff. We like to call it jazz repertoire, but it's not like it's completely new stuff. So next, I think the next most traditional, most classical sound would be to use the Phrygian Dominant. You know, Yngwie did this to death. Good on him. It sounded great, still does. I saw Yngwie live once actually, and caught one of his picks. It was the loudest gig I've ever been to. You know, when you go to these sort of more rocky gigs, you often see people with these walls of Marshalls, which are of course all dummies. Well, when you go to see Yngwie, he's got these walls of Marshalls, and they're not dummies, and they're, you know, 100, 150 watt, possibly even more beasts, and they just blow your brains out. So if you do ever get the opportunity to go and see Yngwie, it's good fun, but wear about 3 layers of earplugs and ear muffs and all that as well, because he's going to blow your brains out. Anyway, I got off topic there. So the Phrygian Dominant, which is, of course, the 5th mode of the harmonic minor. Now, the nice thing about the Phrygian Dominant is that on the 2, you've got a purely half-diminished chord. So when you're playing a Phrygian Dominant 2-5-1, it's going to be a half-diminished to a 7-flat-9. On the guitar, this is nice because you can take this chord shape 5-6-5-6 and move it up to 3-4-3-4, or 8-9-8-9, and you get what I call a minor 2-5-1. There's a bit of debate over what minor 2-5-1 is, but I think generally this is becoming accepted as the minor 2-5-1. So it's a half diminished chord to a so that's a diminished chord at the top there, and I've got this theory that I'm not sure if I've done a video on this yet, that diminished chords don't really exist. A diminished chord simply outlines the notes of a 7-flat-9. So any context, unless it's a completely modal context, any modal context that you see a diminished chord, then it will be diminished. But any other context, a diminished chord is simply used as a dominant function. It's functioning as a 7 flat 9 chord, even if the root of that chord isn't there. I'll expand on that if anyone's interested in the future, but that's one of my little Charles Harrison music philosophy things. But yeah, you've got this diminished chord packed in there. Now that of course does mean that you could use the diminished scale if you wanted to, and of course yet again you can use completely chromatic playing over every single chord. It's a kind of substitution, I understand. Yes, so you're exactly right. A diminished chord is not something in its own right, unless I tell you the one really simple context that it is a chord in its own right. That's when the villain comes on at the panto and you want that sound. That's diminished. You know, that's really doing a diminished job. Every other context, when you see a diminished, it's resolving somewhere. Why would you use a diminished instead of a dominant chord then? Well, because a diminished can go to more places. A diminished chord can be, a diminished chord can be interpreted from any one of its notes because it's a symmetrical chord type. It's purely minor thirds. That means any one of the notes can be the root of it. Therefore, when you're modulating key, you can pick any one of those notes and move to any one of 4 keys, whereas the dominant chord, of course, will just take you to the obvious one. Diminished chord can take you to anywhere, really, so it's a really, really useful chord. Anyway, I'm getting off topic again, as usual. So let's try this 2-5-1, and I'm going to use the Phrygian ideas over it, Phrygian Dominant ideas. So that's going to be, in this instance, the key of C harmonic minor. So I'm going to play C harmonic minor in a D way over the 2, and I'm going to play a C harmonic minor in a G way over the G. Okay, over the 5, sorry. Here we go. A 1, 2, 3. I'm going to try some of those diminished ideas we're talking about now. So these are A flat diminished ideas, B diminished ideas, D diminished ideas, and F diminished ideas. We can use any of those because it's completely symmetrical. There's some Ingve ideas. So let's try those as a scale. That was altered. try some more diminished ideas. Okay, actually, let's pause there a second. So diminished ideas. Diminished, actually, it's not a scale I use too often. I find myself with the diminished, because it's this symmetrical repeating thing, I find myself falling into lick patterns where I just play something and move it around in thirds. I don't know if anyone else has that problem. I'm getting to the point where I feel a bit more comfortable. You know, I know exactly what the notes are in my head. I know where the notes live on the fretboard, but I think the issue actually is the fretboard. I'm seeing the notes in groupings of minor thirds. If you've been studying the diminished scale, you'll possibly know what I mean by that. Nice diminished lick, which I think I've put online before. I think I've done a video for this one. Is the Chopin lick. So this goes. You can do that hybrid again. What am I doing here? Yeah. That's one, and then the other one's the Ingve lick. Just Ingve arpeggios. Ooh, a bit rusty on those Ingve ones. You'll find those in the REH book. Okay, what's next? Well, something I keep doing by accident is the altered scale, so I'm trying to avoid doing that one today. The harmonic major. Okay, so what do we get in the harmonic major? Well, in the harmonic major, you've got the same half diminished chord because it's got the A flat in it. So if you take a D minor 7 chord, D, F, A, and C, the only note changed in the harmonic major is an A flat. All the other notes are white notes or natural notes. So it's a A flat, and same in the G7. Sorry guys, I'm brain fog today. Same in the G7, you're going to have an A flat on the top, which is the flat 9. So this is going to give you almost the Phrygian Dominant sound, but it's going to have a natural 6 relative to the Phrygian Dominant. Which it's a nice sound actually, because it's very bright. With that natural 6, you're expecting a da 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 at the top, and you get da da da, and it's a bigger interval than you're expecting, so it gives you this lovely bright sound. Again, not a scale I use too much. It's actually a very under-taught scale. You can use this lovely on diminished chords, the whatever I've just said, harmonic major, there you go. So I'll just play it slowly so you can hear the notes first of all. Oh dear. Oh dear. Okay, so like I've said in my Getting Out of a Rut video, and something which I haven't been doing today, and my excuse will be because I've just woken up. But it should never be excusable. This is your focus, even when you're focusing on things like scales. It should always be your tone and your timing. I completely let my timing go on that one there. I was distracted by the notes, which of course means that I then need to work on that scale and get it to the point where I don't get distracted. Which once you've got a few scales down, guys, it doesn't take you long to get used to a new one. I mean, it could be it could just be a matter of minutes. When you're learning scales for the first time, of course, it can take you weeks and months and years to get to the point where you're really, really confident with them. The nice thing about once you've got a couple of scales down is you understand, or your brain at least understands subconsciously, what you're asking it to do. It just needs to put the right building blocks in place. And often that can be visualizing the fretboard better. Problem with that, of course, is back to what I was just saying about the diminished. You can end up playing a bit shape-based, and you can realize some gimmicks within that scale. On the subject of which, here's a gimmick within the harmonic major, is you've got C, E, A flat, which is the augmented chord, or an augmented triad, I should say, because it's actually still got a major 7. Listen to that, isn't that a lovely chord? That's the minor major 7. So you've got this augmented chord within the harmonic major. Great thing when you see an augmented chord, of course, well, what's the scale that goes over an augmented chord? A whole tone scale. So you can justify anything you want here, really, which is great, because of course that now means that we can play if we can play the C harmonic major over all the chords, that means we can play the whole tone scale over all the chords. Let's try that one for fun. So we're going to be playing the whole tone scale of C. This is going to sound weird. This is going to sound weird, but again, it's how you play it. That makes it sound like I'm going to play it well. Probably not. Let's see what happens. Whole tone scale on C over these chords. We get some weird notes here. Ah, awful. Gimmick. Try that again. Anyway, where's that? There we go. Right, I'm gonna put this down a second. Okay, so yeah, again, things like the whole tone scale, they can get a bit gimmicky, or there's no need for them to get gimmicky. I'm referring to my own playing. They can get a bit gimmicky. Perhaps in your own playing as well, you find that you play something like a whole tone or a diminished scale, and you fall into patterns because they are symmetrical. So that's something that I want to work on in my own playing. You know, when I'm grumbling about my playing here, guys, these are completely non-emotional grumbles. I care. I'm not going to say I don't care, but I don't care on an emotional level. I'm not beating myself up and getting annoyed about it. I care. Therefore, I jot down that I need to work on this, and then I work on it, and then the problem will eventually be fixed, or at least it will eventually be better. don't go, oh, I keep playing patterns, I'm rubbish, full stop, end of. There's nothing less useful for a musician than emotion. I'm talking on a technical level, of course. When you're playing emotionally, you need some emotion in your playing, or some feel, as we call it. But I'm referring to playing, practicing, actually, to be more specific. The number one reason people don't progress is because they, I see this with students. What's a good example? Maybe a student working on a grade 1 piano or something like that. They'll come along to the lesson. I'll say, "Oh, what do you want to work on today? You know, what have you? How's your practice gone? What do you think would be useful for us to work on?" And of course, they ask to play the piece that they can play the best. Well, when you come to a music lesson, that's the daftest thing that you can do, is play the one that you can already play. You want to play the one that you play worst, so that we can actually work on it and find out why we dislike that one. But we think emotionally, and it's not really particularly helpful. So last thoughts, just to summarise what I've done today. I got a half hour playing in there. That's quite useful. You just got to grab your time when you can. We tried the Augmented sixth chord, which gives you the get my brain in gear. Which gives you the Arabic scale: G, A flat, B, C, D, E flat, F sharp, G. We tried the Neapolitan sixth chord, which gives you it's a very similar scale, but slightly different: C, D flat, E, F, G, A flat, B, C. C, D flat, E, F, G, A flat, B, C. So that's Arabic scale built on built on C. What am I talking about? Built on C. Built on C. Okay, and then what was the other one we tried? We could play the diminished scales. We could play the whole tone scale on the root, which doesn't work at all over the 2 and 5, so you've got to make it work. We could play the harmonic major, and we could play the well, of course you can just play your standard modes as well if you want, but we can play the altered scale was the last one there, which is of course from the melodic minor. So that's it really, guys. That's all I wanted to do today, just for my own benefit more than anything, just to jot down these ideas. We've got one viewer there. Has anyone got any last questions before we call it a day about any of this stuff? No? Okay, well, we'll call it a day there then. Oh, there we go. Here's a question. Hi, Charles. I was with a client here. I will continue the work. I will come back. Cheers, Luke B. Thanks for your support. I'm calling it a day now, Luke B. So if you've got any questions, drop them down below and I'll answer them in my next video. I like just filming these videos for my own benefit, and it's great if you can benefit from these as well. Cheers, Luke Bertels. Excellent. So thanks for your support, Luke. I'll see you in the next one, and I'll be putting this on my channel so people can watch this in the future, and including myself. Okay, see you in the next one then. Cheers. I'm pleased you were happy, Luke. Take care now. Bye now.